welcome to
Hungaritas!
We're gonna make some baklava today. Before we start, there's a few things I want to point out before we begin. One is make sure you defrost your phyllo dough in the fridge overnight and just take it out, put it on the counter maybe half an hour or 20 minutes before you're gonna start using it. And also the recipe can basically be broken down into three parts. One, the sauce, two, the actual pastry, and three, assembly. And the reason I want to bring this up now is because it's important that when you put the sauce or the syrup, I guess, and the pastry together, that the pastry be hot directly from the oven and the syrup should be cooled to room temperature. So you can make the syrup ahead of time, like the night before, or if you're like me and you wait until the last minute, I'm just going to make it and then I would either put it in an ice bath to help cool it down a little quicker, but since it's December, I'm just gonna throw the pot out on the balcony. So let's get started with our syrup. So let's start with the syrup. It's gonna be really simple. First, we're gonna put 2.5 cups of sugar into a pot. Then we're gonna add 2 cups of water. Now that I have the syrup for the baklava chilling outside, let's start with making our actual pastry. So I've preheated the oven to 390 degrees. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna prepare our nut mixture. I'm gonna use a mixture of walnuts and pistachios. However, you can use whatever nuts you like, depending on the region and what's available. The type of nut that's used in this dessert varies. We'll add about a cup of each. That looks good. So as you can see, as you can see, the nuts are cut up pretty finely. There's a few larger pieces, but I'll just go in with my fingers and crush those. So I've had this phyllo dough defrosting in the fridge overnight, and I took it out of the refrigerator about 20-30 minutes ago, just to let it warm up to room temperature. I've got my pan, which is, it's very convenient that it's about the right size for the phyllo dough. However, if you want to use a different baking sheet or dish, you can always cut the phyllo dough. So got some melted butter here. So it's melted, but it's not hot. So you melt it and then let it kind of reach room temperature. And I'm just gonna brush the bottom of this baking sheet. The butter is what's gonna make those flaky layers nice and brown, beautiful. What we are gonna do is we're gonna carefully just take one sheet at a time and lay it down. And then we're gonna brush evenly all across. Don't be shy with the butter. And you know what I'm gonna do actually, just to make sure, especially because I'm gonna dry climb it, just to make sure my phyllo dough doesn't dry out, I have a damp kitchen towels. Plain towel. Damn towel. I'm just gonna throw this over gently, and that way I am not nearly as rushed. So we've got quite a few layers to go through. Make sure that you don't miss the edges. So I've done 4 sheets and I've buttered each one. Now I'm going to add the 5th sheet. The 5th one, I'm not going to put any butter on, but I will put half a cup of my nuts. And now that we have this layer of nuts done, we're going to add the 6th sheet. And butter that nicely. So because there's the nuts underneath, I find it a little easier to kind of go around the edges first, just to weigh the phyllo dough down a bit so it doesn't move around too much when you do the middle part. Okay, so this is the 9th sheet that we just buttered. We're going to put the 10th one down. We're going to put another half a cup of nuts on this one and spread it out. No butter on this sheet. So, and then we're going to repeat that 2 more times. So 4 sheets buttered, 1 not buttered with some nuts, 4 more sheets buttered, 10th one, right? So the 5th one is 10th total, unbuttered with nuts. And we're going to do that 4 times, and then we're going to finish it off with 5 layers of just the buttered phyllo dough. Okay, so now that we finished buttering our final 25th layer, we're just going to cut this. We need to make sure we cut it before we put it in the oven, because if you try to cut it afterwards, it will just crumble. And don't worry if you lost your count at a certain point. Nobody's going to know. It's approximate. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to kind of cut around the edges first, just because I find those tend to be not as pretty, and I want these as little gifts, so I want them to look perfect. But you can do it how you like. You can keep those if you want. I'm just going to use those as snaps for myself. And make sure you cut all the way through. And so now we're done cutting our baklava. It looks good. I checked that they're cut all the way through. It's okay if some of the layers are moving around. Remember, we're going to bake this, and then afterwards we're going to pour sugary syrup over it, so it's going to be nice and that syrup is going to be nice and sticky and help hold everything together. So I'm just going to pop this in the oven at 390 degrees for 50 minutes. I just pulled our baklava out of the oven, and I want to make a correction from earlier. I just realized I kept on saying 50 minutes. I have a meeting in 50 minutes. 30 minutes is the time. Just check on it the last 5 minutes before, just to make sure it doesn't get too toasty. So if you take a look, I don't know if you can hear the sizzle in the camera, but while it's hot, I'm going to take this chilled syrup I have here, and I took it from the pot and poured it into a measuring cup so it'd be a little easier to pour. And I'm just going to drizzle this gently all over. You hear that sizzle? That's why you need to do it immediately after taking it out of the oven. Oh, I'm so excited to try these. So good.
And just do your best to be even. We're not going for perfection. And we need to go ahead and let these soak and cool down. So for like at least 4 hours.
And so we'll do that. See you in 4 hours when I can finally have a bite of one of these. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, please consider hitting the like button below. And if you'd like more content like this, the red subscribe button. Till next time, ciao!